If you're a fan of Star Wars Empire at War mods and want to start getting into customizing your own experience, today I'm going to break down 5 quick and easy changes you can make in under a minute. I'll be demonstrating this mostly in Thrawn's Revenge, but for most of them the same principles will apply regardless of whether you're doing it in Thrawn's Revenge, another mod, or the base game, and I'll explain what the differences are where they do exist. First, we're going to need to get files in order to modify them. You can get them by navigating to your Steam folder, then Steam Apps, Workshop, Content, 32470, which is the identifier for Star Wars Empire at War, and then you'll find yourself in a folder with all of your downloaded Steam Workshop mods. The one we'll need for Thrawn's Revenge is 1125-71106. Technically, you can just start working in those files in this folder, but to make sure your changes don't get overwritten the next time your game or mods update, we'll be moving this to the local mods folder. So start by copying that numbered folder. To find where to put it, we'll go to the Steam library, right-click on the game, then go to Properties, and then on the Installed Files tab, you'll click the Browse button at the top right, taking you to your Empire at War folder. Since we're working on Forces of Corruption mods, we'll next go into the Corruption folder and then the Mods folder within that. If you don't have a Mods folder already, you can easily make one by right-clicking, New, and then Folder. Once you're in that Mods folder, just paste the folder we copied earlier, let it transfer, maybe go have dinner, you are going to be here for a while if you have a slow hard drive, and then we're ready to go. In order to set this up to run, let's rename the folder to something more recognizable, like TR submod, then we'll go back to Steam, right-click for Properties, and then where it says Launch Options, we're going to type in modpath equals mods/tr submod, or whatever else you named your folder. The first thing I'll be showing you how to change is the population capacity in space, allowing you to field more or less than 300 pop worth of units. So from our new TR submod folder, we'll go to Data, then XML, and then find the factions.xml file. You'll need to open it with a text editor. Regular Notepad will work, but I really strongly recommend getting Notepad++, which looks better and makes things a lot easier to work with. This factions file has all of the basic information for the factions, including the population capacity. This is a value that's set for each faction individually, so you can do different values if you want per faction. The specific line we're looking for here is Space Tactical Unit Cap. I'll just drop a 0 on the end and make it 3000, and since I'm doing it to everything, I'll just use Ctrl-H, go to the Replace tab, copy and paste the old line in what I want to replace, and then the new one in the next line, that's what you want to replace it with. Then, once you press Replace All, this will replace everything at once, saving you valuable restraint, though you can do each change manually if you really hate yourself. But now we can go in-game to test for the first time. In the base game and some other mods, there's an additional XML file for factions called Expansion Factions or Factions Expansion. So if you don't notice your changes or if you can't find a specific faction, check for another file like that in the XML folder. But now that you have more population cap, you may want even more starting forces for everyone. This one I'm just going to show in Thrawn's Revenge and Fall of the Republic, since we generate those within certain rules rather than specifying exact ships in most maps. We'll start back in the core data folder, but this time we're going to Scripts, and then Library, EAWX Plugins, then the Random Spawn Manager plugin, then open the file in that folder just called Random Spawn Manager with Notepad++, or I guess Notepad if you really insist. This is a Lua script, the other file type you'll be working with when editing code in Empire at War. We're looking for a value called self.startingPower, which determines the rough power of the ship stack it's going to spawn on a planet. If we bump this up or down, it'll change how many units are spawning per planet. For now, I'm going to bump this up to 5,000 from 1,000. Another quick check in game confirms this worked, and we can move on to the third change. For this, we're going to be looking at how to change fighter spawns for ships, which I'll cover for both Thrawn's Revenge and for other mods, which do work differently. To do this in Thrawn's Revenge and Fall of the Republic, we'll go back to the Scripts folder, then Library, then EAWX mod ICW, which in FOTR will be EAWX mod FOTR. Then we go into the Game Objects folder. This folder has a different script for each unit in the mod, listing all their fighter spawns and some other properties. We'll take a look at the Calamari Cruiser file though. You'll see there's a sub-entry for each fighter type the ship can spawn, with information for each possible faction. If you break this, keep in mind it could break a lot of other things, so always keep a backup when you're modifying these folders. To keep it simple, we'll just replace the X-Wings with V-Wings. To see some different options, you can check the units folder in the XML folder and dig around, because you'll need to find the name of the object you want to switch it with. So for this, we're just going to be switching it to V-Wing Squadron where it currently says Rebel X-Wing Squadron. Just try to remember when you're putting in the Lua file to make sure it is in all caps. In other mods and the base game, you'll need to go to the unit's XML file directly, and that's where the fighter data lives. You can just go to the XML folder, then the unit subfolder, and then find Calamari Cruiser in there, but there is a simpler way when you know what you're looking for. To start, just open any file in Notepad++. We know we're looking for Calamari Cruiser, so we can press Ctrl-Shift-F to get to the Find in Files function. We'll put Calamari Cruiser in quotation marks, which will be easier for you if you don't have a Canadian keyboard. And with these three little dots, we'll navigate to our TR Submods XML folder, which tells the program which directory to search within. Once you press Find All, after a couple seconds of searching, it'll take you exactly where you need to be for the ship's XML entry. In the unit's code, you'll find a list of starting spawns and reserve spawns, which may sometimes vary based on the unit's tech level. This also helps with some AI information in Thrawn's Revenge and Fall of the Republic, even if we don't use it to actually spawn the fighters. So for consistency, changing it in both files makes sense. But again, you do need to know the name of the squadron XML objects in order to make these changes. One trick to see a bunch of these at once would be to use that Find in Files option we used in Notepad++ before. Put _squadron and then a closing quotation mark. You don't need an opening one for this. Then when you press Find All, it'll just show you a bunch of different fighter squadron names that you can pick up to use in these replacements. So now we'll head back in game to test, et voila, we have V-Wings on our Calamari Cruiser. The fourth change we'll be making specifically in Fall of the Republic. A common request is for us to change the ship coloring on things like the Venators after Order 66 happens. Unfortunately, doing this in-game is way easier said than done, and it would be a lot of extra work on assets. But if you're willing to make a single XML change yourself, you can do it very easily, even on existing saves. I already showed you how to copy files, so we'll just be making this change directly in the downloaded folder for Fall of the Republic. So we'll navigate back to the workshop folders and go into the one named 1976399102. We're also going to be using the Factions XML again, so navigate to that, going through Data, XML, and then Factions.xml. The line we want this time is the No Colorization color line, which changes the default color for a faction ships. To get it back to gray, change it to 255, 255, 255, 255. This is an RGB value, so if you want to change this to any other color, it's the same process. But now by simply leaving the game once, you can make your Republic fleets look a bit more Imperial after you've killed off the Jedi. Our final change is more like a set of possible changes you can play with a little, since ultimately the point of this video is to give you an idea of where to start exploring for anything you may want to experiment with. We're going to head back to the XML folder to a file called Gameconstants. This has a ton of different modifiers you can change around, including object speed and health modifiers, a quick and dirty way to change the pace of the game if you so choose. But you can also change the degree and duration for ships taking increased damage while coming in from hyperspace, and a bunch of other similar modifiers. The last line we'll try to change, though, is called Pay As You Go, which when changed from false to true, completely changes the economy in one easy step. Instead of paying for everything up front, credits are subtracted gradually over a unit or structure's build time, so you go from one easy payment of 6,000 credits to 6,000 easy payments of 1 credit, which can change how you plan your economy and spending. Again, there's a ton of different stuff to explore here, so I hope this video has helped you get started on your own projects. If there's anything specific you'd like to see covered in the future, let me know in the comments and I'll keep that in consideration. Special thanks to the patrons whose names you're seeing on screen right now. Their support makes these videos possible.